My name is Tina Marley Tubbs. I grew up on our family homestead outside of Palmer, Alaska, and I survived a gunshot wound the first year we lived there.
We moved up here in 1964 from Idaho. And the reason that we moved up here at that time is because there was a bad earthquake that hit Alaska in 1964, and there was a lot of work. Alaska had to be rebuilt. And my dad had always wanted to come here, so he brought the family up, and we've been here ever since.
The 1964 earthquake decimated most of the coastline of Alaska. When we arrived, there wasn't any place to live, so we lived in a school bus that my dad converted into an old-time motorhome.
It took us about 3 years before we found our homestead, and once we found the homestead, we moved out here into this little cabin that you can see. And while we were living here, of course, we didn't have running water except for the creek. We have a little creek right next to the cabin.
We didn't have a lot of money, and but we were happy. We were so happy living there, and we lived in this little cabin with a large army tent out back, and the girls slept in the tent, and my brother and parents slept in the cabin. The cabin was very small. It's an old trapper's cabin.
Close to the end of the summer, it was like August, September, right this time of year. And my dad worked out in the villages. He put water and sewer systems in, and so he was gone a lot. And because of that, he had a 410 shotgun, and he taught my brother Pat how to use that. I think my brother was about 12 years old. And this one day as he went out, a bullet got stuck in the chamber, and he couldn't get it out. And he thought, well, Dad will be home in a couple days. So when this cabin was built, above the door is a gun rack. Right above the door. And so when he got back from hunting, he thought, well, I'll put the gun back where it goes, and Dad will be home in a couple days and he can get that bullet out of the chamber.
I was mad that it was my turn to fix lunch, and I had gone out to get some water, and when I came back in, I slammed the door really hard, and the gun fell off the wall.
And she reached up to grab the gun, and it went off. And it shot her through the neck.
The front end of the gun, the barrel, fell off the nail that it was sitting on and landed on my shoulder. And I reached back with my arm to move it off my neck, and it went off. And so it shot through my neck on the right-hand side, but also shot through my arm on my left arm. And anyway, just barely left my jugular vein intact, but blew off everything else on that side.
But she collapsed on the floor. My mom grabbed her and us kids and got us into the vehicle and rushed us into Palmer to the hospital.
My brother had been in Scouts in Anchorage, and they had just gone through first aid just prior to us moving out to the homestead. And so he actually was in the cabin with me. He was sitting in a chair in front of me. And being on the homestead and in small communities, there wasn't a lot of medical attention. And we had never been to the actual town of Palmer. The highway didn't used to go through Palmer. On the old road where we lived, you had to go like another 8 miles to town, and we had never been to the town also, so we didn't know where anything was. They did actually end up having a small 2-room hospital.
They took one look at her, and they said, we can't deal with anything we just had a little hospital. So they put her in an ambulance and rushed her into Anchorage, into Providence Hospital, and the doctor told my mom she won't make it through the night. She's lost so much blood. And anyway, so he gave my mom no hope. And we just hit the floor, we just hit our knees and just prayed. We prayed for a miracle. did live through the night. They had to take skin grafts off her leg to put to reconstruct her neck. They fed her through her veins, through her leg for 3 months. They had to shave all her hair off, and they just worked on her neck.
I was there for quite some time, and it took a full year to recuperate and to learn all the skills I needed to learn again. It was very painful.
I remember seeing her, and I couldn't believe that that was my sister.
Growing up in Alaska is really my heritage, and it's part of who I am. Growing up on the homestead made me who I am, and we all worked hard. We worked hard all the time, and we worked hard together, but we had fun doing it.
bensound.com. bensound.com.
It was a different way of life, but it was a wonderful way of life for all of us, and I wouldn't change any of it.